You can get a large audience together for a striptease act. That is, to watch a girl undress on the stage. Now suppose you came to a country where you could fill a theater by simply bringing a covered plate onto the stage and then slowly lifting the cover so as to let everyone see, just before the lights went out, that it contained a mutton chop or a bit of bacon. Would you not think that in that country something had gone wrong with the appetite for food? And would not anyone who'd grown up in a different world think there was something equally strange about the state of the sex instinct among us? You and I, for the last 80 years, have been fed all day long on good solid lies about sex. We've been told, till one is sick of hearing it, that sexual desire is in the same state as any of our other natural desires, and that if only we abandon the silly old Victorian idea of hushing it up, everything in the garden will be lovely. It's not true. The moment you look at the facts and away from the propaganda, you see that it's not. They tell you sex has become a mess because it was hushed up. But for the last 20 years, it's not been hushed up. It's been chattered about all day long. Yet it's still in a mess. If hushing up had been the cause of the trouble, ventilation would have set it right. But it has not.
Before we can really dive into any of this, I need to dispel some myths and lies. I believe we are currently living in the most sex-saturated, sex-obsessed society that humanity has ever known. That's my personal opinion. I call it sexual anarchy. So if aliens came down today and landed in America, which is where aliens always land, and they decided they were going to watch movies to learn about our species, they would get a grossly misrepresented view of what real sex is actually like between two people. For instance, if you've watched enough movies by now, you've deduced a couple of things to yourself, like hot people always have great sex. Whether it's a brief fling or a one-night stand, you get two hot people in bed. It's instant chemistry. They know exactly what to do. It's like this perfectly choreographed dance, which, by the way, that's exactly what it is behind the camera. So by now, you've fallen into two camps. Either you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm a pretty good-looking guy or gal, so yay for me, I'm just going to have great sex by default. Or you're thinking, I'm not very good-looking, I'm never going to be very good-looking, so shoot, I'm just going to be stuck having lousy sex for the rest of my life if I'm lucky enough to have any sex at all. I have good news for you. Or bad news, depending on how hot you think you are. Your level of hotness, according to Hollywood's nebulous, superfluous, ever-changing, and completely irrelevant standards, has absolutely no bearing whatsoever over the quality of sex you're going to have over the course of your life. I promise. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a movie starring a tubby, affable, not-so-attractive female character that desperately spent the whole movie trying to sleep with a really hot guy? I didn't think so. I think Hollywood actually hates women, but that's another lecture for another day. Again, your level of hotness has no bearing whatsoever over the quality of sex you're going to have over the course of your life. I'm probably the only person that ever tells you that. How sad is that? Third lie. In order to be great at sex, you need to have sex with a lot of people so that you can practice at sex and get better at sex and become like an expert lover. If you believe that, let me just state for the record, I feel sorry for all the people that you're going to practice on over the next 5 or 10 years of your life. Sex is not something you need training for like the Olympics or running a marathon. How do I know that? It's actually fairly simple. We've been having sex as a species from the beginning of time. Just like we've been eating, sleeping, breathing, cooking, pooping, walking around. We've been copulating, procreating, and repopulating the earth, meaning you're innately endowed with the ability to have sex with another person, know what goes where, and find some enjoyment in said activity without having any practice. That should come as good news for you. The only thing more sex with more people will make you great at is short-term relationships, because once a relationship becomes physical, it's all at least one person in that relationship is ever going to want to do when you're together, and a relationship will die a very quick, painful, and public death when it becomes strictly physical. So what then do we need for a long-lasting relationship, you might be asking to yourself? Well, you need love. What is love? I believe in order to experience real love, you need three things, and if you miss one, you miss them all. Number one, love is forever. Real love is forever. I love my sons forever. I will never give them up for adoption if they bug me too much and move on with my life. Who would do that? I love my parents forever. Not everybody can say that. Some people have terrible parents. I know that. I spent a lot of time working with those kids. But I have great parents. I will never emancipate myself from them. And I love my wife forever. Oh, but Jeromy, how can you say that? That's a different kind of love. I mean, you can't see the future. What if someday you meet someone you're more attracted to or have better chemistry with, or you and your wife just grow apart and have irreconcilable differences and experience a conscious uncoupling and blah, 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 blah. I don't have to operate by those rules, nor do I have to live in that reality. Here's a few things I know about my future, even though I can't see it. I will never rob a bank no matter how broke I get. And I've been broke. I will never punch an old lady in the face no matter how angry I get. And I've been angry. And I will love my wife forever because love is forever. And by the way, I did promise at a wedding in front of witnesses by giving my word that I was never going to leave. And if my sons can't even trust me to keep that promise I made to their mother, who I'm regularly sleeping with, how in the world could they trust me not to eventually fall out of love with them someday as well? They couldn't. They shouldn't. Because real love is forever, and deep down we know that. Number two, love is a choice. Believe it or not, Gretchen chose to be with this for the rest of her life. I didn't blackmail her or give her a love potion. She actually chose me, and I chose her. And in that choice, love can now blossom and grow. It cannot grow in a vacuum, meaning you choose to love someone based on all available evidence, or you choose not to. If there is force, deception, pressure, coercion in the relationship, it cannot be love. Number three, and this is most important, real love at its core is a complete and total selfless act. Selfless is the opposite of selfish. It says someone else is more important than me. I change my boys' poopy diapers every day, not because it benefits me in any way to do so. So if love at its core is a complete and total selfless act, I would argue so must sex be. And when you have two people in bed in a committed, trusting marriage, each trying to out-selfless the other person sexually, you have a recipe for mind-blowing sex every time. That's the secret to great sex. And I would argue you cannot get that level of trust and commitment in anything but a committed marriage, where someone had the guts to stand up publicly and state, I will never leave you no matter what, no matter how old or flabby you might get. How do you intend on standing in front of another person completely naked and unashamed without that peace? You can't. Shame ruins sex. Insecurity ruins sex. Fear ruins sex. Lack of trust ruins sex. And if you think sex is there for you or your orgasm or what you can take from that person sexually, you're missing 95% of what sex could actually be. And I don't want that for you. And I don't think you want that either. I first met Gretchen in a picture on a wall. I was friends with her sister Jenna, and my sister and I went over to Jenna's apartment one day just to hang out. And Jenna's room was covered in photographs. There was one picture on a main wall that was a little bigger than the rest, of Gretchen. And I remember looking at that picture and thinking, that is the prettiest face I've ever seen in my life. And I was transfixed. Long enough that apparently Jenna noticed me looking at it, because she finally came over and was like, that's my sister. I never thought I would meet Gretchen, but we did meet a couple of weeks later at church of all places. And when I met Gretchen, she was a hot mess. Gretchen spent all of high school drinking from the age of 14 up to her senior year. Drove drunk probably 15 or 20 times by her own volition. She was not a virgin when I met her. She'd had a couple of boyfriends in high school. All she ever was to them was a body. Was raped at a party when she was 16. And at 18, it finally all caught up to her. She realized two very important things. Number one, alcohol had like a death grip on her life. And number two, she did not know how to have a functional relationship with a man that did not involve sex. And frankly, alcohol and sex were exclusively combined in high school, which should tell you something about how much fun sex was for her in high school. Ironically, she was one of the most popular girls at her school. High school was very good to her. She wasn't popular because she wanted to be, because she tried to be. Gretchen just is. She just does. She's the most magnetic human being I've ever met in my life. But it did her no favors in high school. You know why? Because that kind of popularity isn't all it's cracked up to be, and it nearly killed her. I didn't know any of this, when we met. We just shook hands that night. We very quickly became best friends, which for me was a brand new experience because growing up, I did not have many friends and I'd never had a best friend. Other than my own mother, no one in my life to that point had been as kind to me as Gretchen, and that thought was not lost on me. What I wanted growing up was what my parents had. I wanted to love a woman the way my dad loved my mom. It was the best thing he ever did for us. By the end of the summer, my dad had realized what I was still coming around to realizing. I had fallen in love with Gretchen. And one day he asked me if I could live without her. Because if you can, you should, he said. I knew right away, no, if she fell in love with someone else or moved away, I would never recover. I'd be chasing someone like her for the rest of my life. She'd set the bar so high. So I took her for a walk, and I told her to her face, I don't want to do this with anybody else, and I'd like to marry you someday. And if you're not interested in that, you should tell me. But I needed you to know. And she did feel the same way. And about a year before we got married, I worked with this guy. He wasn't a very good guy. And he was baffled that we were saving ourselves. Why would anyone do that? He said. And I told him because I don't know any other way to show a woman that I'm serious about her than to withhold that which is so important to me until I put a ring on her finger and promised in front of hundreds of people that I would never leave. Having sex with her is not going to do that. That's what her boyfriends did, and I'm never going to be that guy. And I spent 17 years trying to reprogram her brain from just what 4 years of high school taught her about love and body image, pre-social media. But because of the decision she made at 18 to not have sex even with me until we got married, she was able to come to our bed that night 3 years later with a clear conscience, not comparing me to the boyfriend she'd had in high school. Not like that would have been very much to live up to anyway. But I can't tell you how hard that's going to be if you don't start right now. So Gretchen and I got married here September 1st, 2002. There were 400 people at our wedding. No kids. Gretchen had 12 bridesmaids. Now, if you've ever been to a wedding and there are like 5 or 6 bridesmaids, you might think, well, the bride must just have a lot of sisters. Gretchen has 1 sister. I have 2. And now I've run out of fingers to show you in a physical manner how many women stood up for my wife that day. We laughed and danced and ate and drank for hours. Now, I had been told by Hollywood that when that day finally came for this poor, pathetic 21-year-old virgin, there'd be only one single solitary thing that my teeny-weeny man brain would be capable of thinking about. And all day long, I'd be walking around like some sort of stupefied zombie, completely unaware of any other reality other than the fact that after 21 years, I was finally going to get laid. And then that day finally came. Wouldn't you know, that wasn't my experience at all. I was present for my wedding. I had vivid memories of that day, the people that came, the songs that were sung, the way she looked when she danced. I was there. I remember. In fact, we were the last people to leave the wedding. How about that? And then we finally left, drove about a mile down the road to the Embassy Suites Hotel in downtown St. Paul. And yes, what proceeded was, to this day, one of the most amazing 45 minutes of my entire life, which we have since topped many times in the last 14 years, but for obvious reasons, I will always keep that somewhere on my top 10 list. And every single joke and stereotype I'd ever heard out of Hollywood about how a 21-year-old virgin's first time was supposed to go was completely, utterly nuked out of existence. They could not have been more wrong. On every conceivable level, it was as if we had always been together. But you know what I wasn't thinking about that night? I wasn't thinking about all the other girls I'd been with. I wasn't closing my eyes picturing that ex-girlfriend or wishing Gretchen looked like that girl or did the things that that old girlfriend did. I didn't just give her my physical virginity, I gave her my memories. didn't think about that, did you? Sex is the most intimate act you can possibly perform with another person. It's the only act which creates human life, and every lover you collect along the way will be another ghost that haunts you in your next relationship as you're trying to love the one you're with, but you can't stop thinking about that last guy or that last girl. I was not on some weird religious fundamentalist endeavor convinced that sex was dirty and should be done in the dark as quickly as possible, which is yet another stereotype I had to put up with as a teenager. I simply felt the woman I claimed to love deserved no comparisons, and for the rest of my life, that's exactly what she'll get from me. And nobody can take that away from me. Now I'm going to read to you. Well, read and recite. Numbers. Why? Because numbers don't lie. Numbers tell a story, so I've got a number. 1 in 2 American adults will get an STD at some point in their life. 1 in 2. Any math whiz out there want to tell me what the percentage is on 1 and 2? 50%. Half of all American adults will get an STD. Little life tip, 50-50 odds not in your favor when it comes to your physical well-being, and in particular your genitals, should never be taken. I can't believe I even have to say that out loud. If you're standing on the ledge of a bridge and you're thinking of doing an extreme base jump with some friends for a rush, and a mathematician just happens to walk by and say, hey, excuse me, sir or ma'am, but based on your height and weight and the rate of speed at which you hit the water and the rate that the rapids are flowing, there's about a 50-50 chance you'll break both your legs once you hit the water. Not a single one of you would make that jump. You would step off the ledge, hug the mathematician, probably offer to buy him a drink to thank him for saving you from that indignity. So today, you, viewer, are the extreme base jumper, and I play the role of the mathematician. And if in a couple of years, you happen to be in Minneapolis and you see my wife and I out on a hot date and you want to buy me a drink to thank me for saving you from any one of these horrible indignities that can affect your genitals, I give you permission today to buy me a drink. Yeah. Lest you get something like, I don't know, HPV, human papillomavirus. This is genital warts. It's a viral infection that infects 6 million new Americans every year. Can be transferred any kind of sex you can have with somebody, including skin-to-skin contact and contact with body fluids, meaning you'd actually have to be doing it to get HPV. There is no cure for HPV. A lot of people eventually just goes away. But brothers, it gets much worse. Let me just rephrase that because you've been lied to again. Well, if you're going to have sex, be smart, use protection, be safe. I'm sorry, safe from what? Because according to the CDC, the most common viral STD you can get is HPV, and there's no cure, and it's impervious to condoms. Or you could get chlamydia. It's a bacterial infection that infects 3 million new Americans almost every year. It can be transferred. Any kind of sex you can have with somebody. You can also give it to a baby in the womb. In fact, a number of these diseases can be transferred to a little baby that had no choice but to be born to you, to your diseased body. Let's hypothesize for a second. If tomorrow every human being on Earth woke up and decided to be monogamous with one partner for life, eventually STDs will be eradicated from the face of the earth, right? So whether you believe in evolution or God or nature or whatever, it's pretty clear there's something inside us that simply prefers we be monogamous. Otherwise, how would you even get any of these diseases? I now have to tell you what happens when you get one of these diseases. You have to tell the next person you have sex with that you have. Hey, Jane, I have syphilis, but it's cool. I'm taking medications for it. As long as I'm on the medication, doc says you're not going to get it. What do you say? What do you think her answer is going to be? Never. And then you finally meet the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, but you have HPV, a strain that will not go away. You know what that means? They've got to choose to contract your disease if they want to spend the rest of their life with you too. There are thousands, maybe millions of Americans that have to make that choice every year for somebody. Why would you want that? Not me. How about marriage? Affairs happen twice as often with individuals that are living together than those who are married. I mean, the moment you move in with someone, you just double the chances one of you is going to cheat on the other. Those that live together until marriage are still less sexually faithful after marriage than those that did not live together first. Out of all the people that live together, 67% of live-ins never even get married. Meaning you're more likely never to get married than get divorced if you move in with someone. Couples that do end up getting married have a 50% higher rate of divorce than couples that did not live together first. Isn't that interesting? You want to sabotage your relationship, move in with somebody. How about condoms? Surely there's some good news there. Except consistent and correct condom use is not common. Not even half of teenage boys use one consistently. 15% of women that depend on condoms to not get pregnant will still get pregnant within the first year of use. If a sexually active 15-year-old girl practices a typical use of condoms, she has a 50% chance of getting pregnant by the time she's 20. And guess what? 80% of teenage fathers leave after impregnating their partner. How about marriage? Put your parents' marriage aside, okay? Married people have significantly higher levels of happiness than people that are not married. They fight less. They make more money. Oh, this is interesting. Marriage provides the highest levels of sexual pleasure and fulfillment for men and women. And that study has the most studies of all the studies on my sheet of studies. Wait, Jeromy, weren't you saying something like that earlier? Yes, observant listener, I was. You mean to tell me that two people in a committed, trusting marriage, regardless of their levels of hotness, according to Hollywood, actually have better sex and more frequent orgasms than your average sexy 20-something single living it up in New York City like I see on all my favorite TV shows? That's exactly what I've been saying this whole time, and now the numbers back it up over and over and over again. Oh, but Jeromy, isn't the divorce rate 50-50? You told us not to take 50-50 odds. You're right, I did. I'm so embarrassed. Is that marriage's fault? Every civilization from the beginning of time has had a matrimonial ceremony. Have we suddenly just evolved to the point where we no longer need marriage? Is that why the divorce rate is 50-50? 90% of you young people watching this video right now will be married by the time you're 30, regardless of how high that number climbs. And either way, these numbers are pretty current, meaning while you are married, before you get divorced, you're still having better sex on average than the rest of the single sexually active population. How about pregnancy? A sexually active teenager who does not use contraceptives has a 90% chance of getting pregnant within 1 year. 1 million teen girls in the US get pregnant every year, the highest of all industrialized countries. And guess what? 1 in 7 sexually active 14-year-old girls in this country becomes pregnant. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Jeromy, if I get pregnant, I've got a plan. I'll just have an abortion. And that's your right. It's your body. It's your choice. It's legal to do so in this country. But I'm just telling you that by the time you find out you're pregnant, which is 4 or 5 weeks later, when you missed your period, there's already a little heartbeat inside you that started at 21 days. And I don't have to be a girl to know it's going to be a lot harder to pull the trigger on an abortion when there's a heartbeat inside you that's not your own. Oh, the irony that a heartbeat would start a week before you even know you're pregnant. And okay, you know what? I don't have numbers on heartache, regret, shame, guilt, remorse, baggage, but I can tell you this. It's been 17 years since Gretchen has been with any other boy but me, and she still has bad dreams to this day about ex-boyfriends. Someone please explain that to me. I'm listening. I had a paper route when I was a kid. My sister and I, we delivered like 500 papers. It was the most of any kid in Bloomington. So one day, I think I was 11, we were out on the paper route, and I was walking down this street, and we came up to this sewer, and I saw something colorful under the leaves, and it was a porn VHS tape cover, and I remember instantly feeling my whole body felt like something I never felt before. And I knew right away, like, this is bad. Which is interesting to me. No one had ever told me about porn. I stuffed it in my bag and I walked up around the block a little further, like, shaking. And then finally at the next sewer I came across, I just threw it back. In the 1970s, if you wanted to see a porno, you had to be 21. drive to a movie theater, display a valid ID, purchase a ticket, and sit in said movie theater with other people watching what are now NC-17 rated movies on Netflix. Then the 80s came around, and now if you were under 21, you had a couple of options. You could steal a magazine from a gas station, or swipe your parents' credit card and order a VHS tape from a catalog. Remember those? Then the 90s came around. I remember the 90s. I was coming of age. Some guy named Tim invents the World Wide Web, and now you could just sit at a computer and type in boobs and sex, and all kinds of crazy pictures would come up, albeit very slowly on the 56K modem dial-up speed that we had back then. Now here we are today in the 21st century. Every modern industrialized country on earth has mobile, streaming, broadband, internet, smartphones. In the matter of a few seconds, you have completely free, unfettered, 24/7 access to hardcore pornography. What could possibly go wrong? You know, the average age of exposure to pornography today is 8. The most avid viewers and consumers of pornography today are 12 to 17-year-olds. That's our new sex education. But do you know what the most popular forms of pornography are online by some numbers? Teen and rape. 2 of the most sought-after forms of porn online. In a recent survey done, it showed 88% of porn today features violence against women. Just one of those sites averages 6,000 videos streamed per second. One site. In 1998, there were 14 million pornographic web pages. Today, there's well over 2 billion. You ever wonder where all that free stuff comes from? You think that girls in this country just turn 18 and wake up super horny and decide to have sex violently with a bunch of guys and then put that online for the whole world to see, even though no one's going to give them any money or know their name? Now I have to tell you where a lot of the porn comes from. And we'll see if you want to watch porn after that, okay? Here in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, where slavery has been outlawed for hundreds of years, we spend more money buying underage boys and girls for sex than we spend on sports. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry by some numbers. That's right. Slavery is more profitable today than it has ever been. The average age that a girl is trafficked is 12 years old. And once her pimp has sufficiently broken her body, which is the first thing he does, she will work 20 to 50 men per day in a revolving door on a mattress on the ground until she dies at the ripe old age of 32 years old, having killed herself, or overdosed on drugs, or died of disease. That's the average lifespan for a boy or girl trapped in human trafficking. So what does this have to do with porn? That's a great question. We've talked to these girls and surveyed them, girls and boys around the country, to find out what life was like for them. And do you know what we found all the way across the board? Almost 100% of the time, their pimps and their johns filmed them on a regular basis and uploaded those videos to Pornhub and RedTube and YouPorn and the like, and made money off of the ad revenue. And every single guy watching this film right now, and even probably some of you girls, has seen a video featuring an underage sex trafficking victim, and you didn't even know it. The next time you pull up one of those porn videos, you're gonna see my face and remember my words, and you're gonna have to ask yourself, I wonder if that girl in that video really is 18. You really think pimps adhere to the terms and conditions on the website before uploading? Check the box that says each performer in this video is 18 and gave their consent, kind of like you checked the box saying you were 21 when you entered the website. Guys, I recognize that girls are complicated creatures, okay? They're different than us. I've lived with one for 14 years. I understand. They take work. God forbid you actually work for something in your life. And society speaks out of both sides with mouth to men and boys. Girls want a guy that's nice and sweet and looks all that important, but Jeromy, when I turn the TV on, all I see is Justin Bieber in his underwear, or Zac Efron in his underwear, or any number of the One Direction boys behaving badly, and girls go nuts for it. So what do they want? You know what? I don't even care. I'm just going to watch porn and play video games and live in my parents' basement. And that would be funny if it weren't actually happening all over this country, numbers we've never seen before. In fact, in Japan, their young people just aren't having sex really at all. And they're experiencing a population decline that they are woefully unprepared to deal with. What happens when an entire generation of young people just decides to stop procreating? Extinction. You know, there's a science behind all this. Now we have 10, 15 years of brain data and studies from neuropsychologists, brain doctors all over the world, pulling their studies together, their numbers together, their data together to reveal that porn is even more damaging to your brain's development than drugs. Here's how it works. Little Tommy gets his hands on some porn at like 8 years old. Maybe his brother showed him, a friend. And he will never forget that image as long as he lives. You're thinking of the first porn you saw right now. And at 10, 11, 12, when Tommy starts going through puberty and his body starts changing, he's going to go back to that picture. And in that one wonderful moment, his brain is going to reward him with a little drop of dopamine to the amygdala. And it's going to give him an erection, and it's going to be amazing. And he's going to go back to that picture over and over again, all the while being rewarded. But after a while, his brain's going to get bored. Tommy, we've already seen this enough. I need something new. I need something more exciting. So Tommy goes online. He starts Googling, finding pictures and landing on websites like RedTube and PornoTube and YouPorn. And he starts clicking around on categories like extreme brutal gangbang, 18 and abused, teens crying. Those are real categories. But for Tommy, during that one wonderful moment, his brain finally has something new and exciting and rewards him again with a little drop of dopamine. And he goes back day after day, sometimes hours at a time, until Tommy finally gets in bed with a real girl, only to discover, much to his horror in that one terrifying moment, that he can't get an erection because his brain doesn't know what's going on. That's a real condition. You know, today 26% of men under the age of 40 have erectile dysfunction. In the 1900s, early 1900s, it was less than 1%. Then in the 90s, out of nowhere it would seem, it suddenly shot up to 7%. What happened in the 90s? And now today it's a quarter. A quarter of young men under the age of 40 have erectile dysfunction. With a real person, but not with porn. Where does it go? Where does that stop? But let's say Tommy's not quite there yet. Let's say his penis still works. He will find out in that one horrifying moment with that girl that she doesn't like all of that violent kind of things he's been watching, that porn teaches us girls supposedly like, and she'll run screaming from the room, assault, assault. And he's gonna go, what? She said yes. She gave consent to have sex with me. I didn't realize girls didn't like that kind of crazy, painful, violent stuff. So you know what he'll do? He'll go online to Backpage or Craigslist to find a girl he can pay to let him do what his girlfriend won't let him do. That's right. Porn is the breastfeeding mother of sex trafficking. And it's creating a generation of buyers that need to buy a girl to get the kind of sex they've been watching. So since I don't want that for you, a broken penis, or you turning into a villain, can I just make a suggestion? Don't watch porn. I know what you're thinking. Oh God, how do I do that? I watch it every day. I was just watching it this morning. I'm gonna watch it after I watch this video. It's okay, guys. You can make it. I promise. We went thousands of years without porn. You'll be just fine. I have 2 filters on my cell phone. I have 2 on our home Wi-Fi. I even set parental controls on my cable that I can't really figure out how to unset. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I mean, clearly I don't care what you think of me at this point. I want it out of my life. I'm done being a guinea pig for these people. 85% of the porn online today is produced by one company. It's called MindGeek. Google that. These people own you, and they're sucking money out of you by turning you into addicts. Not me. I'm done. I want it out of my boy's life. I want it out of my wife's life. This woman has had 3 C-sections for me. Do you know what a C-section is? Oh, I don't think you do. Have you sat in a room for a C-section? I have for 3. My wife has a condition where she'll die if she gives birth naturally. You don't think her body's changed just a little bit since she was 18 or 19? I like her body better now. She doesn't believe me, but I do. Only because I have worked to keep Gretchen and not porn at the sexual forefront of my imagination. I'm not heterosexual. I'm not homosexual. I'm not pansexual or bisexual. I'm Gretchen sexual. I'm not literally attracted to half the population. It's just Gretchen, and if I have anything to say about it, it will always be Gretchen. I think she's earned that, no? Hey, Gretchen, you have your body violently ripped open to bear my children, and I, in exchange, will give you my sexuality for the rest of my life. Does that sound like a fair deal? Maybe a little lopsided in my direction, but she's earned that from me. Girls, I'll be the only one to ever tell you this, so listen up. You don't have to look like a porn star, act like a porn star, or have sex like a porn star. And if you think you do, you'll learn to hate sex. We have those numbers now. Poll after poll shows young girls in high school and going on to college believe that sex is really more for a guy That it's kind of painful for a girl, and that's just the way it is. It's not really supposed to be pleasurable for a girl. I don't care what you believe religiously or politically. I think we can all agree that's a horrible fate for an entire generation of girls to grow up thinking that sex is not pleasurable for them. If you're with a guy that thinks there's nothing wrong with porn, just break up with him. How are you going to compete with that? You can't, and he's going to ask you to do that stuff. If you're with a guy that asks you to text him or WhatsApp him or Snapchat him a nude, just break up with him, because he's a coward, and that's what cowards do. Almost every girl, not all, almost, wants to be loved by one man for the rest of her life. How do I know that? Because every love story from the beginning of time to this moment has revolved around that one single solitary idea, that one man would forsake all others for you. And when you compromise that desire to be the little porn star that the boys want you to be, you'll be licking the bottom of the barrel, splintering your tongue for one last taste of what was supposed to be love. The pornification of America is complete. Ladies, it's affected you as much as it's affected guys. That's how we have Kardashians and Miley Cyrus and Nicki Minaj. And these perfectly plastic celebrities with their surgically enhanced bodies airbrushed on the cover of every magazine. In this alternate reality that they live in, turn around and tell you, normal girls with a straight face, love your body. They think you're that stupid. They don't care about you. They would never go back to looking like you. They'd rather kill themselves. And you could never look like that with that money in synthetics, which should tell us something, by the way. If you need money in synthetics to be beautiful, then I would argue after eons and eons of not needing that today in society we have no idea what beauty is anymore. There you are in the bathroom with your little cell phone camera, preening and posing and twisting and contorting, and using all of the apps and filters to take away all your imperfections, to post on Instagram hoping to get enough likes that day to make you feel beautiful, only to wake up and do it all over again the next day because you hate your nose, you hate your eyes, you hate your cheekbones, you hate your teeth, you hate the shape of your lips, the shape of your jawline, the size of your ears, you hate your boobs, you hate your butt, you hate your thighs. And it just goes on and on and on, hounding you. I don't want that future for you, ladies. I don't want that future for my son's future wives, to watch my boys trying to pick at the pieces and teach their wives what beauty actually is. I'm not at war with porn. Do you understand that? Porn is a symptom of a greater evil that's flourishing in our society, and that is the dehumanization. When you break someone down on a video, which is in essence a computer's attempt through ones and zeros to reproduce an experience, you've taken away their humanity. Once you take away a person's humanity, what is left is nothing. I believe we are on the edge, on a precipice. And we either go off the ledge, or we step back from the ledge. And once we go off that ledge, I believe we'll reach a point of no return. Fellas, the world doesn't need more low-quality men. We have enough of those. The world's as bad as it is because there are too many bad men running amok and not enough good men like the ones out there watching this video right now, willing to stand up and do something about it. I mean, what are you waiting for? Superpowers? Why do we love Marvel movies so much? Why do we love comic books so much? Because we want that. Deep down inside, we want to have that kind of bravery. You want people to look at you with admiration, for hope, for help. You're going to have to decide what kind of man you want to be, or porn will decide it for you. And I don't want that future for my boys. Do you?